Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuits. And this is actually one of those UnderDusk miniatures that were really terrible. And, hold on. Crap. Sorry. I wanted to do a Uyaga, which is like a Cherokee evil spirit that essentially is sneaky and stealthy and terrifying, and it steals years of your life. And I read an interesting story about one that is apparently true, but you know what's true and what's not. That can be a twisted staircase into stupidity sometimes. This is probably going to be some kind of other forest spirit, but I don't know what it's supposed to be. So I could easily use speed paints, I suppose, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a color in here called Chocolate Bar. It's a reddish brown, and it's a little bit wet. I'm going to find a cheapy brush. No, I'm not going to find a cheapy brush because the first brush I grabbed was my regiment brush. I'm not going to pre-moisten this since this paint's pretty wet. And I'm going to get in here and get a good base coat of this really wet, dark reddish brown. Now, when you look at like the Midwestern, Western, and Southwestern Native American spirits, they tend to be more colorful and fun. And then the more to the east, they tend to be scarier and less fun to look at. So we're going to try to do something in the middle there. Some of their religious hierarchy in different Native American cultures. I don't know if it's called a religious hierarchy because it's more of a spirituality than an actual practicing religion. But like I was learning about, what were they called today? The Comanche today. And some of them practice completely different belief structures in the same exact systems. So, you know, they believed in the same spiritual beings and gods, but they had different forms of practice from tribe to tribe and sometimes from individual to individual, which I thought was insanely interesting. But then again, you know, so many of these cultures are no longer around in their purest form. You know, it would be similar to the impact Japan's had on China or that the British have had on India. Much of their culture has been Americanized by European settlers. So I have to wonder how much of their stories have been changed to sound Christian or to sound like stories settlers have told. I know that it goes back and forth that the colonists would believe in some of the myths that they were told by the natives and vice versa. And some things like werewolves or I can't think of what else, but just like many types of creatures exist in every kind of culture, like dragons. Every culture has like their form of dragon. Every culture has their form of like undead of some sort. So I don't know what I'm talking about now. I forget. I lost focus. Not like it really matters. So I want my Uyaga, I should say, to be somebody who can stealthily stalk the party across different types of land. But I don't want the miniature to be so blended in with the base that it's not interesting to look at. So I don't really have a good plan for that at the moment. I think I got decent coverage on that. And that paint was just thin enough that you can see some of the depth of the undercoating. So, for some reason, was this the Comanche I was reading about? Yeah. So, for some reason, the Comanche, they would take white people as slaves and stuff like that. They would capture, like in northern Texas and stuff, they would capture people. And if they were girls around the age of 13, they would try to assimilate them into the tribe. So, they had attacked a series of towns, and then they tried to pursue peace. And the Texan locals said, yeah, if you give us these 15 or 20 people back, we'll give you peace. So they went to go collect the prisoners, which were given to different tribes within their war band. And it became a problem because one of the war bands had completely disappeared, leaving only a young boy, which they usually didn't keep. They usually killed small children because they're a burden to take with them. They would kill them and drown them and do whatever. So all they found was this young boy, and they were suspicious that there was a young boy, and that was the only survivor. And they ignored the young boy and continued to look for the war band of the missing Comanche. And then they came back, and the little boy was gone, and there was a little girl there. And that's when they realized what had happened to the tribe, that it had fallen to a Uyaga. Which was a mischievous, malevolent spirit. So, when they were stealing these people, these settlers that were moving west, what must have happened is that a Uyaga somehow took the place of one of the family members that they were kidnapping. And since you can't, only a very powerful shaman or somebody like that could really deal with one of the Uyagas, it was going around changing its form. After they would kill someone, it would turn into someone they had killed. And then after they realized it was Uyaga and fled the area, the Uyaga stalked them and tried to make sure they couldn't return any of the prisoners, so they would all have to suffer their fate, because the Uyaga is malevolent. It's not on their side. So it didn't want them to return any of the prisoners because it wanted to go around and feed off of everything it could and everyone it could. So it stalked them and followed them from tribe to tribe. Making sure that it had its fill. And then when they thought that they had completely evaded it, some of them assembled on a war council to go try to sort out the peace with the Texans, which could not be achieved without the prisoners, of which by they only had some. So the ones who did not go with that war council to try to make the peace fell victim to the Uyaga. And when those that escaped from the city in Texas, which I can't remember what the city was called, went back to talk to their homies, well, there was just a small child there, like an 8-year-old girl, and she appeared native, and they realized something had happened. They didn't know it was the Uyaga again. I guess they thought it was something else at that point. They thought it was a raven mocker, but it was still the Uyaga. The Uyaga went ahead and finished them off. So all those who had been dishonorable in behavior in the attempts to create peace with the Texans, though the Uyaga didn't take the Texans' side, he took his own side, or she took her own side. They all fell victim to the Uyaga and its desires. So how I would run an Uyaga is it's a shape changer that can also take on characteristics of its local environment, who can also mimic voices, who can also detect thoughts to an extent. To what extent, you'll have to figure that out. I'm not really sure myself. They can move supernaturally fast to keep up and get ahead of people on horseback, because the Comanche were big horse riders. Or they can move exceptionally slow as not to be noticed as they travel. Now, in theory, you shouldn't see an Uyaga in its true form, because it is so stealthy and so conniving and so sneaky that it won't let you. If it's trying to trick a group and it sees that a particularly powerful shaman is onto it, it will try to kill that shaman, or it will flee and go mess with a new group, because apparently its weakness only comes in the form of you knowing what it is. I couldn't find any super good information about that, unfortunately, so kind of just... when I went to learn more about Uyaga on Google, I was just getting a lot of generic description from wikis and stuff, and not a lot of content of story or how they operate, which is kind of what I wanted. My little niece came over today. Well, my brother and his fiance brought her over. She didn't just show up on her own. I mean, she's only 10 weeks old. And I had her in the D&D room, and I was showing her monsters and doing important, cool guy, Uncle Doom kind of stuff. And I have a replica Sting, Frodo's sword, or Bilbo's sword, really, on the wall. And she saw it, and I thought, well, of course she's attracted to it because it's shiny and it's silver and it's a sword. But at 10 months old, or 10 weeks old, she lurched out and tried to snatch it up off the wall and then screamed because I wouldn't let her touch it. And I realized she was, in fact, my biological and loving niece. Because that's how I feel when I'm not allowed to touch a sword. I had tried to have a nice day today, since I'm going to that surgery in the morning. About 8.5 hours, or 9 hours or so. What time is it? 8:30 in the morning, whatever time it is now, I'm not sure. So we had a pre-surgery party all day. So anybody that visited, we were feeding them. I had made a large amount of grilled chicken salad that didn't get eaten. And there was cake. And then my mom shows up, and she has cake too, so that's double cake. Now, I don't eat junk food anymore. Pardon me. I have lost an enormous amount of weight eating 240 grams of protein and only whole foods throughout the day. Bananas, hard-boiled eggs, stuff that's not really been processed. It's just been kind of one ingredient and cooked. Steamed broccoli, limited amount of cheese. And I went from a 44 to a 36 pant size relatively quick doing it. And I've had a lot more energy and felt a lot better. But today, I did eat cake. I got about half an hour until till I have to start fasting. When that fast starts, I'm going to go ahead and go to bed. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and take a little quick break here and have a cookie because I can't smoke anymore after this. At least not for a while. Being that it's my sinuses that are being dissected, smoking would be highly stupid. And if you have to quit for a couple of weeks, you might as well just quit. I've wanted to quit for many, many years. I made it a year once. But if I'm going to quit for 10 or 14 days because I have to for my health, well, I'm going to take advantage of that time of getting over the withdrawal period because I have no choice and just quit. But I'd like to enjoy a couple last few smokes before I quit because I've been a lifelong smoker. And even though I wish I had never freaking started, and it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever done, you know, people are always like, oh, you're so smart. And then I think to myself, but you're not because you smoke, you jackass. I'll probably still occasionally have a beer. But one of my things is when I drink, I smoke too. And I had got down to where I was only smoking about a pack a day before I started drinking again. And I didn't drink for like 17 something years. I think it was that long. It was a long time. I quit in 08. Yeah. 07. So yeah, I didn't drink for quite a while. And then I started responsibly drinking again. Not like excessively or anything stupid, just, you know, when I wanted to. I would like to do my Uyaga with some bright green on him too. Maybe that area around his chest there. I don't know. The problem is he's mostly going to be in the desert, and I don't want him to be. Let me shoot his feed things. Oh shit! I must knock something over. That'd be bad. This is going to be risky. I feel like this is a mistake. So around here, that could easily be foliage. And that mane that runs down his back. Oh, I can't remember. There's a word for that. Can't think of it. I was just reading about it today. Because my dog, the hair on his back along his spine stands up when he gets agitated, like when people come in the house and stuff. And I knew there was a term for it, so I looked it up, and now I can't remember what it's called. Hackle. Is that what it is? I think it's hackle. It's called like a piro erect. Piro is like Latin for hair, and erect means to stand up. So when they get a hackle, it's a piro erect. It means that the hair follicles are forcing the hairs to stand straight up. So we'll paint this guy's hackle green. And his mane that he randomly has green. not bad. I'd like to do something a little interesting with his horns. We're getting close to 30 minutes. I think we're at about 27 or 28 minutes now. Let me check, I'll tell you. 27 minutes. Don't think I'm just naturally that good of a guesser. I do have a kind of a counting mechanism I use to keep track of time. But sometimes when I'm talking, I don't use it real well. But about 3 minutes ago, I did look at the timer on my phone, I think. So at some point I did. I'm not sure exactly when. All right, so I'm going to get a small synthetic brush. And I'm going to get a really light color. And I'm going to do some brightening up around on these horn things. I'm going to do these shoulders with it a little bit and lighten this up just a tiny whiny bit. Okay. Okay, so that's my Uyaga. I'm going to dry him off with my air gun, hit him with a clear coat, take a photo of him, and call it a night. Hey, if you like what I'm doing on the channel here, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, leave a comment, and do all the happy crappy that pleases the great spirits of the algorithm. We know they are bitter, bitter spirits that crave attention. So let's try to give them that so they'll be kind to our channel here. Also, check out the website and the Discord. They're both linked in the description. There's a 25% discount for your first month of our miniature service if you use the discount code that's in the description as well. So that was a nice quick paint job for something that's going to be memorable and fun to fight. And hope you guys like it. And maybe some of the things I talked about, its tactics, might help you, maybe not. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.